Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today, if you've been thinking that, you're looking at a virtual assistant, you might need one, you might not need one, you're not sure what they can and can't do, can you afford one? Then you don't want to miss today's episode of the Author to Authority podcast. Oh, I hope I say this correctly. Audience, some days I just struggle with the names, but Beejel, hopefully I said that close to correct.
It's actually Beejel, but it's close enough, Kim.
Oh, Beejel stands out as both a disruptor and innovator. He was inspired by the 4-hour work week, and he launched his VA venture by hiring 3 assistants. Within weeks, he was working with VA service companies and helped expand the operations from 100 to over 500 VAs over the span of a decade. In 2019, he introduced a groundbreaking VA service, setting a new industry benchmark with a direct hire, no markup fee approach. This model emphasized community and transparency, attracted skilled VAs, and built trust through face-to-face training and events, benefiting both clients and VAs financially. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to sharing some of the secrets of what I've discovered over the past 15 years almost in this industry.
So I guess the first and probably the most obvious question to ask you is, we think about VAs, but obviously you're going to share some secrets, but is it really beneficial, when you're a consultant, a professional, a speaker, coach, entrepreneur, solopreneur, that category of people, is it really beneficial to bring on VAs into your company?
It would be insanity not to. Absolutely insanity. And we'll get deeper into that. But literally, to me, and I'm still a small, even though we have 130, 40 VAs active right now, having been an entrepreneur and jumped from opportunity to opportunity, it is impossible with the amount of things we now have to do to not think about bringing on help, whether it's your family members, whether it's your college kids in your neighborhood, whoever it is, we have to. And VAs for me have been the most reliable, stable source of affordable income as a small micro business owner.
Yeah, I agree. I have a team of freelancers that I work with, so I do bring on people with different skills, and I have seen the value of bringing in people to help, because no, I cannot do it on my own. It's just way too much in a day. Even with everybody else doing the amount of work they do, sometimes I still have way too much to do in a day. So I hear you. So you wanted to talk today about dark and dirty secrets. So I'm going to let you loose for a little bit just to share what you've prepared for us today.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to just reveal so people understand a little bit more about the culture of hiring overseas labor and what the options are and what the pros and cons of the options are, right? So I'm just going to assume for the beginning of this discussion that everybody has bought into the idea that we must delegate. You don't have to take my word for it. Every expert on productivity somewhere in the book is going to say, delegate, delegate, delegate. As I mentioned, if you don't, you're going to drown. You're going to drown in that business that you dreamt of creating. There's just literally just too much to do. So let's just assume that for a starting point. Now we're at a point we want to
Good place to assume.
Yeah. So let's now divide outsourcing, which is really what we're talking about, right? So the overriding theme is productivity. We want to produce better results in our business. One way is to outsource, and there are subcomponents of that industry of outsourcing. One overarching theme is projects and processes. Let me just define that for a second. A project is what you mentioned. I need a book cover designed. That is a project. You go find someone on a platform and they design you a beautiful cover. It's done and dusted, right? You might need a website done. That's a project. This is kind of the easier part of outsourcing. And this is where most people, are engaging with freelancers and stuff to do this type of work. However, when we look at what drives the results in business, It isn't our investment in these projects. As many of your listeners might agree, you get a book, you write the book, you get the book, you've got the book, it's beautiful, you've given a few copies away. Most of the time, that doesn't bring in the income. It's what are the day-to-day processes, the stuff that we entrepreneurs dislike doing, waste of our time, and typically, and what I find more often than not, we avoid doing. That's literally costing us a fortune. It's very easy to spend money on a project because it feels good. We got a beautiful website done, but now there's no traffic coming to the website. Why? Because we're not doing the hustle. This is where I want to focus our conversation. Hiring people that get embedded day to day in our business, that take on little chunks of work that drive actual results. So, how do we find them? Well, let's start off with agencies. So, an agency typically, I know this firsthand, all right, will come out and they say, hey, hire a VA. It's only $10 per hour. What most people don't know is that there's usually a 2 to 5 times markup in most agencies, right? Every company has to make profit, so there's nothing wrong in that. But it kind of irks me when a company is getting most of that money and the people doing the work are getting a little fraction of that money. Quite often, very reputable agencies are paying as low as $1.50, $2. This is what I call barely survivable rates for the VA.
Mhm.
Then sometimes we get smart. We say, hang on a second, why am I paying 10, 12, $13 per hour when all these gurus, all these books, the for our work, we says, hey, you can get a $5 per hour VA. Then they might let the agency go. Quite often they start to talk to the VA they're working with. Hey, if you come work with me directly, I'll pay you a little bit more. And so this and kind of violating the terms of their agreements with these agencies. But it happens. Sometimes the VA goes to the client. Hey, client, I'm only getting paid $1.50, $2. What if you hire me correctly? Again, they're breaking the terms of their employment, and often they can get into very serious trouble by doing that too. So that's the thing. Now, the benefits of an agency, of course, is they help you with the hiring, they help you with the onboarding. If there's challenges, they should be helping you with that. And they don't always provide training and growth opportunities for the VA. They say they do, most don't. Okay. Then we get smart. So, you know what? I think I could go and do this by myself. So we go to some Facebook groups where there's literally tens of thousands of VAs. Sometimes we go to something like onlinejobs.ph and we start hey, let me just hire a VA by myself. It can be very overwhelming. You really don't know what you're going to be getting because what they tell you in their resumes is not often reflective of what they've really done. Sometimes they have what in the industry we know as a front face, which is basically someone who's better spoken. They know they can kind of ace the interview, and then they basically delegate it down to their cousins, brothers, sisters, uncle, aunts, and stuff. So that goes on in industry as well. Also, they're not often compelled to do their own learning. So there's no kind of enforced learning on them apart from maybe what the client gives them to learn. And sometimes when things go wrong, the VAs literally will just disappear, right? So they're not very good at handling challenges. And sometimes rather than handle a challenge, even if they'll be out of money, they literally basically just cut off communication. And then there are freelancer sites like we talked about where you can go and hire the specialist. So this is really what people are not aware of. Now, let me just go back to the rate for a second, Kim. We always look at what is a good, decent lifestyle rate, like that allows them to not only just put food on the table, they can pay for their dental treatment, medical treatment, take a vacation, buy nice things. So this is where we start our conversation with our team of VAs. What do you guys want to earn? Right? You set the rates because how we've changed the model is we actually allow clients and VAs to actually connect directly. They pay the clients pay the VAs directly, but we provide that support system that I believe both sets, and we call them both sets of clients, the paying client and the serving client. So that just kind of gives you a real high level understanding of where we've come from in the way we approach this industry.
There was so many things in there that I've either experienced, heard of. It really rang true, and I think there's always this balance, right? when you're entrepreneur, solopreneur, consultant, professional speaker, you've got all these things to take care of, but half the time you're barely paying yourself enough salary. So it's not that you don't want to pay someone, a fair wage for their work, but you're also trying to balance out, you've got to pay your own bills. And in some instances, and there's been times in my business where I'm paying my team members more than I'm making myself. Now, I recognize that is an important stage in the business because I couldn't expand the business without bringing on more people, but I wasn't quite ready, but I was ready. It was very confusing time for me. But there is that struggle because, yes, okay, if I could get somebody for $1, $2, $3 an hour, would that make my life a lot easier as an entrepreneur? Yeah, it sure would. But by the same token, I don't want someone working and not being able to feed their family or, go to the doctor when they need to. It's a tough place to be in.
It is absolutely understandable. And the way I look at it, Kim, it's you're going to get what you pay for, right? So if you and remember, we're talking dollars difference here. We're not talking, 10, 20, $30 difference. What I'm saying is that there's a difference to the VA's life between being able to earn, say, a $2 per hour and say $5 per hour, right? So we got to look at it from a different lens for a second, right? To us, it's like, well, $3 per hour. What does that really equate to? Given an average month, maybe a couple of $100. But what are you getting for that, right? You're getting a VA that doesn't have to go and work extra hours to make up the difference, right? And a lot of times when you're paying $2, they are having to moonlight and extend their work hours to 18 hours, 20 hours per day because it's just not enough. And the reason I know that is because I talk to the VAs daily, right? I said, hey, what's fair? What's fair to you, right? Remember, sometimes if the VA is not working consistently for you, maybe a few hours here, a few hours there, they've got to go hunt other food, right? They've got to go hunt
Yes.
other jobs. Now, sometimes you want the VA to respond to you, but they've got this other commitment they've made to some other client, and now that puts them in a really awkward position. So we got to look at it from, hey, we need as business owners reliability, consistent, and a happy workforce, right? And that's kind of where I come from. And sometimes it's literally as different $1.50, $2 per hour can make all the difference in their world. And they say, great, this is enough. I'm good with this. And let me now serve you with the amount of hours. And the one thing we know, as you just said, Kim, we are on tight budgets entrepreneurs. I don't care whether you are a billionaire company or whether you're a first-time entrepreneur. We have a budget that we have to work to. And as you said, we've got to pay ourselves, hopefully, in the course of all this, right? So what we started to kind of pioneer is, what about we call it the $5 a day VA. Now it's a little bit of a marketing kind of hook here. Obviously you're not going to get a VA for the whole day for $5, but think about this. If you're listening, what is that one thing that and don't put it in terms of time per se, right? But a VA jumps on a call with you, or they do something for you every single day that will move the needle in your business. Generally speaking, for a lot of us kind of micropreneurs, solopreneurs, I would suggest it's probably an income producing support system or something that they can take off your plate that gives you that hour back to go maybe make more sales calls or go and attend more networking, right? So a $5 marketing, right? A $5 per day VA.
It's usually marketing and sales that
It usually, yeah.
fall to the ground, right?
Well, I think for 80 to 90% of people I talk to, it's generally something in that area. And where this idea came from, I, like maybe some of you listening, would attend networking events, right? And then we get all these like connection requests or whatever, and now we've got this follow-up stuff that we have to do, right? And that becomes tedious. We've got to enter the information somewhere, maybe go connect with them on social media, yada yada, right? And a lot of times, and I'm going to put my own hand up here. This is why I started my company with this idea. I wouldn't do it. I'd get busy. The next call comes, the next appointment comes, and now I've got this backlog of follow-up. And now it's the end of the week, and it's like, oh, I don't want to do it on Friday. Weekend, I'll do it on the weekend. Weekend comes, I don't. And now, if we don't do the follow-up in a timely manner,
Yes.
in a consistent manner, over a long enough period of time, we are literally flushing down our time and money down the toilet. We may as well just not show up, right? I know it feels good. We show up for these networking events. Yeah, I'm making these connections. I can tell you how horrible people are at follow up. Even when they said, "Oh yeah, I want a VA," I said, "Great, here's my information." Crickets, nothing. Yada, and then I'm trying to hunt them down on social media, saying, "Hey, you said you're interested," and never hear back. Like follow up is one of our banes of our existence as entrepreneurs. But just imagine if all the VA did was show up 1 hour per day. Say, "Great, Kim, what did you do yesterday? Who do I follow up with?" And said, "You know what? Oh, now you've asked me the question. Let me tell you, there was Daryl and there's Bob and there's Sarah." And I said, "Great, send me their information. Take a picture of their business card," right? So literally an hour per day, you're getting all that stuff done, having that communication, and that's their only job. They put that in the database, they follow up with them, send a text message on your behalf, whatever, connect with social media. Now you can get back to what you enjoy doing. This is where I start the conversation with so many entrepreneurs who've never outsourced. They're scared of hiring a VA. I said, let's just nail it down to a few things a VA can do. And you said, usually in the area of marketing and sales, that will start to move the needle in your business. A couple $100 a month, right? So a couple $100 a month, that is one super valuable investment. People go, oh,
Yeah.
$100 a month, $200 a month. I said, you just spent $997 on a course that's sitting on your hard drive that you've never gone through. Think about where you are spending your money. You go to an event, you go to a workshop, you get mesmerized in a 90-minute sales conversation. You spent 997. You don't even know the login and password, right? Let's face the facts. And I said, and you're arguing about a VA who actually come and start doing the work. Give them the course if you can find your username and password. Let them go through it. Let them extract the nuggets and tell you, hey, Kim, this is what I need so we can start to implement this in your software. Talk about software. How many software programs do we have access to that we don't actually even know, that we're not using, right? Because we don't like that stuff. We got to get honest with ourselves and just start saying, look, we've made these investments in platforms and courses and software. We're not using it. Great. Let's start with that conversation. Let's see if we could get somebody in for 1 or 2 hours per day. Could they be using that stuff on our behalf? And what difference would it make to our income?
Uh, you know us so well, don't you? It's funny because it's true. And I think a lot of it is perspective. Now, I've kind of gotten past the point where I just shell out money and I hear the great sales call and I just shell out money. I'm kind of past that point, been in this long enough. Like, it's got to be either something I really need or, I just very rarely buy that stuff anymore. After a while, the shiny object syndrome's just not so shiny anymore. But I can't say I haven't done it because I have. But it is perspective. We get hyped up when that call on that sales call and the emotions all kick in. And of course, as entrepreneurs, we're like, yes, I'm going to live that dream. And you get all motivated. But then when you think of spending money for somebody to do something, it's kind of like, yeah, that's, it just, sometimes it almost seems like more work. And I think the one thing that is kind of secret and I don't think it's a secret. I think it's just something we don't think of is, we want to hire a VA, but either A, we don't have systems in place for bringing on new people. And I think that gets very frustrating because you don't know what to do with this new person. But secondly, it's, establishing the time to properly onboard that person so that they become a valuable member of the team. And one of the things that I've had to learn to do as a business owner is recognize that when I bring on new team members, specific positions, some positions my book project manager now handles, that's her job to onboard those people. But and I'm teaching her how to hire those people. So eventually I don't have to be through the process of hiring them either. But you have bring somebody on, throw something at them, and expect them to be able to do it well. I think there has to be an onboarding system. Would you agree?
100%. Yeah. And one of the things that we do, Kim, as I mentioned, I've been doing this since 2009, I think August to September 2009, is that today we've identified some of these core issues, right? How do you filter it down? How do you hire? Where do you find them? How do you filter? How do you interview? How do you manage? How do you deal with issues when they come? Because they will, right? We're talking about humans in two different cultures, right? So we do our best to bridge this gap between the two. As I mentioned, our clients actually pay the VAs directly, but we still know and recognize there is a support mechanism that both need, not just the client, not just the paying client, but also the VAs. They need a sounding board. We are not sometimes the best managers of people, right? Even though we like to think we are, and sometimes, and I kid you not, sometimes they say, the VA's just not really. I say, great. What did you? Can I see your instructions? And literally, and can you please handle my social media? Was the instruction, right? It's like, well, what does that mean? Like, if you and I've been doing this long enough. If I said to you, Kim, hey, can you do my social media? Unless you're a mind reader, you have no clue what that means to me, right? So
Yeah, and
we've
so
got to be able to
that's where
articulate,
communication's got to come in, right?
right?
Like there's got to be clear expectations, um, and then accountability and training to ensure that those expectations are being met.
Yeah, you bring up a very I love this word accountability. So one of the things I started to do with my clients is said, I know that a lot of us are part of, say, coaching programs, or we've done our annual planning and stuff. I said, but I'm curious, how many of you schedule this stuff into your calendar, right? And very few hands ever go up, right? Even the ones who are in planning programs. I said, let's face it, some of us never plan, some of us plan, but once a year. Some of us plan maybe monthly, maybe. Some of us plan weekly, very few. Some of us plan daily. We're normally more reactive to what shows up. So what if it's as simple as this? What if you have a meeting with your VA end of each week, 30 minutes, and you just articulate what are your priorities for the upcoming week? What are some of the key tasks and things that you are committing to doing? Let's just put this into writing a book for a second, okay? And let's say, great, this week I want to write chapter one, or maybe an outline of the book. And the VA is going to say, great, Kim, when do you want to allocate time to do this? Other words, when are you committing? They don't use this word because we don't like the word commitment either. When are you committing to do this thing that you said that you really want to get done this week? Well, okay, it's going to probably take me let's allocate an hour on Tuesday. And the VA goes and puts it in your calendar. Then on Tuesday, VA says, hey, Kim, committed to getting this thing done on Tuesday. Is that still the plan? You're going to say yeah or no. If it's a no, when we like to meet to move it to which other day in the week, right? If it's a yes, they check back in with you in the day. Hey, Kim, did you get that thing done? And Kim's going to say, yep, I got it done. Or Kim's going to say, yeah, no, that Costco run took a little bit longer than I planned for, right? Now, because we have to either um, verify what we said we're going to do or bullshit ourselves about what we said we're going to do, that feedback loop that you're doing with a $5 per day VA or a $5 per hour VA is invaluable. People do not understand the value of just having a human being that they can articulate what they are committing to, what they want to get done, and getting that support for scheduling, managing, and that accountability. If all a VA did was simply show up and help you with that, most people would be far more productive than just trying to figure out by themselves. That's what I call a non-tasking VA. And usually, your EA or whoever you hire can play that role too. But I'd say, people ask me, Beejel, if there's one thing a VA could do for you, I say, more than doing things for me, holding me accountable to getting shit done.
Yeah, we'll have to take out a couple of words there. We do have a clean reading rating here, so
Things done.
uh, not a problem. Uh, Yeah, and it's funny that you said that because when I bring on a new book project manager, so she manages all of the projects, and I tell her straight out, listen, you're going to have to kick my behind from time to time. I get busy doing stuff because there are things that I do have to do. So, and I don't always go and look at the list of the things she gives me to do. So I'm like, you have my permission to remind me until I get it done. And she'll text me. She's like, Kim, did you see this? No. She's like, well, can you get it for me? Okay. And then you put it in. But I like that too, the accountability part. And I think for some people that's important. I find for me, I'm highly motivated. I don't usually need a ton of accountability. It's just more I actually have to go check the list of things she wants me to do. So once she reminds me, I get it done, and we are good to go, and we have a great relationship because she knows that she can remind me.
Yeah. And I rarely meet a lazy entrepreneur. I really find entrepreneurs that have a hard time prioritizing and picking things
Mm,
that move the needle in the business, right? And a lot of
yeah.
times there is an aversion to income generating activities, aka marketing and sales, right? So we put some of these things off, and we tend to gravitate towards more creative and fun stuff, and thus we find ourselves pouring a lot of time, effort, and money into those things. And then we kind of like, "Oh, I'm not making much money in what I'm doing." And I say, show me your calendar and show me whether either you or your team are doing these income generating activities.
Yes.
And quite often the calendar does not reflect that, and thus the bank account doesn't reflect it either.
So true. We're going to switch gears here because we're getting closer to the end of the show. So I'm going to ask you the question. You have been in a couple of co-author books, but I'm going to ask you the question that I ask people who have not completed their own book yet. So are you ready?
Yeah.
So if you were to write a book to build your business, what would you write about?
I'm writing actually three books now, that since you asked the question. Okay, so two are directly related. So one is a productivity book. It's a parable based book. I'm going to tell you exactly how I'm going to write this book, and I'm going to be very transparent. And I'm going to actually put the transparency in the book. So the way I'm writing this book, I'm actually going to use AI. Surprise, surprise, right? But in a very different way. So the parable is about a entrepreneur who's struggling, procrastinating, not doing the right things. Oh, where have you heard that story before? Oh yeah, that's my story. And he encounters a portal where he portals in to the universe of bees, and he sees how bees are productive, efficient communicators. They delegate the task, etc. And he discovers the wisdom of the bees and then brings that back and applies it to his business, right? That's the overall. Now the way I'm going to write this though is the oracle. I basically had my VAs um, create transcriptions of 52 of the top books in productivity. So when the readers go through the book, they'll actually be able to access this oracle of information that we're using AI to basically create, and actually have an interactive experience with all this productivity wisdom from some of the masters of productivity. So that's kind of one AI interaction. The other part of this is there's a lot of books, business books, that are actually being written on the wisdom of bees and organizations. So we're going to use that database to basically create the knowledge of how bees are productive in a business sense. Then another source of information is going to be the hero's journey. So using algorithms and using the storyline that is obviously my storyline, we're going to create this very interactive, immersive experience for the reader. So that's one book. That's going to be on productivity. The other book is more on outsourcing. Like, so it's called Delegate or Drown, and basically it's principles of hiring, firing, managing, VAs, but just from my experience. So that's the other book, and both they were going to be in one book, and then I just decided to do them as two books. But the VAs are playing a very critical role in helping me write both the books, because there's a lot of research and knowledge which I'm outsourcing to them, while I focus more on the creative aspect of the book writing. So, and then of course there'll be book funnels, and they'll funnel into what we do on the back end, which is our VA services.
So, are you open to a suggestion?
Of course.
Okay. I don't have, okay. I don't have anything against AI, but if you're, and this is where I specialize, if you're writing a book to build your business and you want to really be seen as that go-to expert, I don't think AI is going to give you the combination of your voice and your unique message that you really need for your book to cause you to stand out as sort of that thought leader in the industry. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't use AI for research and different things, but you already have a powerful message. Like your half an hour here on the show already has already shown me that you've got a lot of your own thought leadership. You have a unique way of saying it that's very attractive. And I think if you use AI too much in the book, you're going to lose your voice. And then when people connect with you after reading your book, it will be a very obvious disconnect. And so I highly recommend that maybe use AI for research and use your VAs to do the research. But I think you would actually be better off to either A, write it yourself, or B, find a ghostwriter who can really capture your voice, because it is unique in a very good way and it's attractive.
Cool. I'll take that into consideration. In all fairness, Kim, we don't have time to get into the how of writing the book, and I didn't share that. But the oracle is what I was talking about, not the book itself, right? So the oracle
Okay.
information is based on 52 books on productivity with very highly sophisticated, modeling, which gives the reader a totally unique experience of the book. So the story is what I'm writing, but the oracle, where the productivity wisdom is kind of pulled down from the Ethernet, is the AI experience.
There you go. All right. Well, we are pretty well out of time today. So, what I would love for you to do is to share a final thought with us. And if people have enjoyed this conversation, they've got a tremendous amount of value out of it, and they're like, oh, I need to check him out because I need a VA, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've written a kind of a very simple guide, that walks you through 6 questions that really helps you kind of understand, identify where you might have a starting point in delegating work to a VA. Even if you have a VA, it's just still very 6 powerful questions. If your listeners go to Be Epic outsourcing.com. You can pull down that guide, and there's a short 9-minute video that also tells you more about what we do, how we do it, how we're unique and different, and our direct pay, no markup fee model. And if we're a good match for you where you're at right now, you can go ahead and schedule a call with one of our team members, and they can explain more. But the guide is really useful because it really gets you thinking in terms of prioritization of where's the best use of my funds right now when it comes to hiring a VA.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been a joy and a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Audience, it's that time again. If you've reached this point in the show and you're wondering where to go next, I recommend that you go back to episode 490, Time Savvy Marketing for busy entrepreneurs. If you are on YouTube, you know the routine. My daughter has placed the thumbnail here on the screen. I love being able to help and support her in her journey in life. If you're on your favorite podcast app, you're going to be scanning back probably about 20-ish episodes, not too far today, but it's another great episode that's going to help you move your business forward and make it bigger, better, stronger, and do it faster. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you on the very next episode. Bye now.
Bye for now.